Pause for a moment, not because something dramatic is happening, but because something meaningful is quietly moving into place. There are moments in life that arrive with noise, and then there are moments like this one, moments that arrive like a gentle whisper, unnoticed by most people, yet powerful enough to change the way a heart understands its own story. This is one of those moments. Somewhere between the questions you have carried and the answers you have been searching for, a curtain has begun to move. Not fully. Not all at once. Just enough for a little light to enter. And that light is connected to the truth about your soulmate. You may think this journey is only about another person, but look closer. Every step has also been about you. Every delay, every unexpected turn, every season when nothing seemed to make sense has quietly shaped the person you are becoming. What if the truth you are waiting to discover is not hidden because it is far away? What if it has been near you all along, waiting for the exact moment when you could finally recognize it? That possibility is closer than you realize. Something in your spirit has felt it. You have sensed that a chapter is approaching, even if you could not explain why. Certain thoughts have lingered longer than usual. Certain memories have returned without invitation. Certain emotions have appeared at unexpected times, leaving you wondering what they mean. These are not answers. Not yet. They are clues. Small pieces of a picture that is still forming. And the most fascinating part is that the picture is beginning to reveal itself now. Imagine standing before a door that has remained closed for a very long time. Not locked. Simply unopened. Day after day, you walked past it, wondering what might exist on the other side. Then one day, without warning, you notice a faint light beneath the doorway. The door itself has not moved, but something beyond it has. That is where you are right now. The light is appearing before the door opens. The understanding is arriving before the full revelation. Do not rush this moment. The heart often wants immediate answers. It wants certainty. It wants the ending before the story has had time to unfold. But some truths become more beautiful because they arrive slowly. They give you time to grow into them. They allow anticipation to deepen appreciation. And there is something about this particular truth that deserves to be experienced rather than simply announced. Somewhere, a connection is becoming clearer. Somewhere, pieces that once seemed unrelated are quietly finding their place beside one another. You may not see the entire design yet, but the design exists. The waiting has not been empty. The silence has not been meaningless. Even the moments that felt confusing have been carrying hidden purpose beneath their surface. And here is something few people realize. The truth about a soulmate is rarely revealed through grand gestures first. It often begins with recognition. A feeling that arrives before evidence. A sense that someone matters before you fully understand why. A calm certainty that appears without needing permission. Have you ever experienced a moment when your heart knew something before your mind could explain it? Those moments leave traces. They linger. They wait. And sometimes they become the first sign that a larger story is beginning to awaken. Stay till the end, because something important is waiting for you. There is a reason this message found you now and not earlier. Timing changes everything. The same truth spoken too soon can sound confusing. Spoken at the right moment, it can feel like a missing piece returning to where it belongs. Perhaps you have spent more time preparing than you realize. Perhaps every challenge has strengthened parts of you that will soon become important. Perhaps the answers are closer than they appear. Notice how certain experiences have shaped your understanding of love. Not just romantic love. Real love. The kind that sees beyond appearances. The kind that notices what others overlook. The kind that remains genuine even when nobody is watching. Those lessons were not random. They were building something within you. They were teaching you how to recognize value when it finally stands before you. And still, the most interesting part remains hidden. Because the truth approaching you is not merely about who your soulmate is. It is about what they have quietly recognized. Long before words are spoken, long before paths fully cross, recognition often begins in silence. Hearts notice things before conversations happen. Feelings develop before explanations arrive. Understanding grows in places where logic cannot fully follow. What if someone has been learning lessons connected to you without even realizing it? What if growth has been happening on both sides of a story that has not fully revealed itself yet? What if the distance between questions and answers has become much smaller than it once was? The possibility itself carries a strange sense of peace. Not certainty. Not prediction. Just possibility. And possibility has power. Because once possibility enters a story, everything begins to feel different. Suddenly the waiting no longer feels empty. Suddenly the unanswered questions feel less like barriers and more like pages that have not yet been turned. Suddenly the future feels larger than it did before. Don't skip this moment. Many people spend their lives looking for signs while missing the quiet transformations happening within them. Yet the greatest changes often happen softly. They happen beneath the surface. They happen while nobody is paying attention. Then one day, what was invisible becomes impossible to ignore. That day is moving closer. Not because of magic. Not because of chance. But because growth eventually reveals itself. Truth eventually rises into view. And connections that are meant to be understood eventually become clearer. As you listen, imagine standing beside a river at sunset. The water moves steadily forward, carrying reflections of the sky across its surface. You cannot force the river to move faster. You cannot rush the sunset. Yet both continue unfolding perfectly in their own time. That is the energy surrounding this moment. Something is moving. Something is unfolding. Something is approaching understanding. And there is one detail still waiting in the shadows. A detail connected to why certain events happened exactly as they did. A detail connected to why some doors remained closed. A detail connected to why your path unfolded differently than expected. That detail has not fully emerged yet. But it is beginning to. Very slowly. Very quietly. Like the first hint of dawn before the horizon changes color. And when that detail finally steps into the light, the truth about your soulmate may look very different from what you imagined. Not smaller. Not less meaningful. More meaningful. Because the deepest truths are rarely the ones we expect. They are the ones that arrive carrying understanding we did not know we needed. And what is approaching now seems to carry exactly that kind of understanding. The next part of this story begins where the silence ends, and where an unexpected realization starts revealing why everything feels different all at once. A strange thing happens just before an important realization arrives. The world outside appears unchanged, yet something inside begins to shift. You cannot always explain it. You cannot always point to a specific reason. But suddenly, moments that once felt ordinary start carrying a different weight. Memories become clearer. Questions become sharper. And somewhere in the distance, an answer starts moving toward you. The silence we left behind was not empty. It was preparing something. Think about the times when you believed nothing was happening. The days that seemed repetitive. The conversations that appeared insignificant. The small choices that felt forgettable. What if those moments were quietly arranging pieces of a larger picture? Not because every event was planned, but because meaning often reveals itself only when enough pieces have gathered together. You are standing at that point now. The picture is not complete, yet it is complete enough for you to begin recognizing its shape. There is something remarkable about the truth connected to your soulmate. It is not hidden behind impossible mysteries. It is hidden within details that were easy to overlook. The way certain feelings stayed with you longer than expected. The way some people entered your thoughts without effort. The way your heart occasionally paused, as though it sensed something your mind had not discovered yet. These moments seemed unrelated at first. But now they are beginning to lean toward one another, forming connections that were invisible before. Stay till the end, because what unfolds next may explain why some experiences never fully left your heart. Imagine opening an old journal and finding a page you forgot existed. The words have been there the entire time, yet today they feel different. Not because the page changed, but because you changed. Understanding often works this way. The truth does not always arrive as something new. Sometimes it arrives as a new way of seeing what was already there. And that possibility carries an important question. What if the story between you and your soulmate began long before you realized it? Not in a dramatic sense. Not through destiny written in the stars. But through subtle moments of preparation. Through experiences that shaped your character. Through lessons that taught patience, compassion, understanding, and courage. Those lessons were creating space within you. Space for recognition. Space for connection. Space for something meaningful to grow when the time became right. And while you were learning those lessons, another story may have been unfolding elsewhere. Someone else may have been growing through challenges of their own. Someone else may have been discovering what truly matters. Someone else may have been letting go of old expectations and finding a deeper understanding of what they actually seek. The fascinating part is that growth often happens separately before it creates connection. Two journeys move independently. Two paths develop their own direction. Then, at a moment nobody could fully predict, the distance between them begins to shrink. Something important is waiting for you within that realization. Because the truth approaching now is not only about another person. It is about timing. The kind of timing that cannot be forced. The kind of timing that becomes meaningful precisely because it was allowed to develop naturally. Looking back, you may someday notice that certain delays protected you. Certain detours strengthened you. Certain unanswered questions prepared you. Right now, however, the most intriguing detail has not revealed itself completely. It is connected to recognition. Not recognition based on appearance. Not recognition based on expectations. A deeper kind. The kind that happens when someone sees qualities within another person that cannot be measured or displayed. The kind that notices kindness hidden behind strength. The kind that recognizes sincerity in a world that often rewards appearances. The kind that values who someone truly is rather than who they seem to be. That recognition changes everything. Because once it begins, the story is no longer about searching. It becomes about understanding. And understanding has a way of transforming uncertainty into clarity. You may already be closer to that clarity than you think. Perhaps that is why certain thoughts keep returning. Perhaps that is why certain hopes refuse to disappear. Perhaps that is why, despite everything, a quiet part of you still believes something meaningful is ahead. Do not ignore that feeling. Not because feelings predict the future, but because feelings often reveal what matters most to us. And what matters most leaves traces. Those traces are becoming easier to see. Like footprints appearing in sand after the tide begins to recede. Like stars becoming visible as daylight slowly fades. Like a melody becoming recognizable after hearing only scattered notes. The pattern is emerging. Slowly. Patiently. Beautifully. Yet one question still remains unanswered. Why now? Why is the truth beginning to surface at this particular moment? Why does it feel as though something is drawing closer? The answer may be simpler than expected. Because readiness changes perception. When you are ready to understand something, you start noticing what was always present. You start connecting pieces that once seemed unrelated. You start recognizing signals that previously blended into the background. And that readiness appears to be growing. Not all at once. Little by little. Moment by moment. Like dawn spreading across a horizon that was dark only minutes before. The next stage of this journey holds a realization that may change how you view every clue, every delay, and every feeling that brought you here. And when that realization finally steps forward, the truth about your soulmate will begin moving from possibility into something far more personal than you ever expected. Without warning, there comes a moment when the pieces stop feeling scattered. They do not fully lock together yet, but they move close enough for you to sense the shape of what is forming. It is like standing on a hill before sunrise. The landscape remains hidden, yet the darkness no longer feels complete. A faint glow begins to appear at the edge of everything, and suddenly you realize that morning has already started, even if the sun itself has not arrived. That is where this story is now. The truth about your soulmate is no longer sitting quietly in the distance. It is moving closer to the surface. Not rushing. Not demanding attention. Simply revealing itself one layer at a time. There is a reason the title of this journey began with only a few minutes remaining. Those minutes were never about a clock. They were about awareness. They were about reaching the point where understanding becomes impossible to ignore. And whether you noticed it or not, every moment since the beginning has been guiding you toward that threshold. Think back to the people who entered your life unexpectedly. Some stayed only briefly. Some left lessons behind. Some inspired growth. Some challenged you to see yourself differently. At the time, each experience seemed separate. Yet now, from a higher view, you may begin noticing how every chapter contributed something valuable. Every encounter refined your understanding of what truly matters. And here is the realization slowly stepping into view. Your soulmate is not connected to your story because they complete you. They are connected to your story because they recognize you. There is a difference. One idea suggests that you are missing something. The other recognizes that you already possess something meaningful. A genuine connection does not arrive to fix who you are. It arrives to appreciate who you have become. Let that thought settle for a moment. Because many people spend years searching for someone who will transform their lives, while overlooking the possibility that the most meaningful connection begins with being truly seen. Not admired from a distance. Not idealized. Seen. Seen in your strengths. Seen in your imperfections. Seen in your quiet moments. Seen in your growth. Seen in the parts of yourself that rarely receive attention. That kind of recognition carries extraordinary power. And something about this truth suggests that recognition is becoming increasingly important. Stay till the end. A detail is approaching that changes the entire emotional landscape of this story. Imagine two books resting on different shelves. Their pages are filled with separate experiences, separate lessons, separate journeys. Yet one day, someone opens both books and notices that certain themes echo each other. Different paths. Similar growth. Different chapters. Similar discoveries. That is often how meaningful connections develop. Not through identical experiences, but through shared understanding. Somewhere, another person has been learning lessons that mirror your own in unexpected ways. Not the same details. Not the same circumstances. But lessons that lead toward similar values. Similar priorities. Similar hopes. And that matters more than most people realize. Because when understanding begins to align, conversations become deeper. Trust becomes easier. Silence becomes comfortable. Presence becomes meaningful. The connection stops feeling forced. It starts feeling natural. Like something that belongs. And perhaps that is why certain feelings within you have remained steady despite uncertainty. A part of you has been sensing the difference between temporary attention and genuine connection. A part of you has been waiting for something more meaningful than excitement alone. A part of you has been hoping for depth. Not perfection. Depth. The fascinating thing is that depth often develops quietly. It grows beneath the surface where nobody can see it. Then one day, what has been growing suddenly becomes visible. Like roots becoming a tree. Like a single spark becoming a lantern. Like a whisper becoming a voice. Something important is waiting for you inside that image. Because the truth drawing closer is connected to what has been growing unseen. Not only within you. Within this story itself. Within the journey that has been unfolding long before this moment. And now another layer is beginning to appear. What if the qualities that make you different are the very qualities that matter most? What if the things you worried people would overlook are the things that someone meaningful would value? What if your authenticity carries more power than you realize? These questions are not random. They are connected to a realization standing just beyond the horizon. A realization that challenges many assumptions about connection. Because genuine recognition rarely happens because someone fits an expectation. It happens because they reveal something real. Something honest. Something memorable. And the more this story unfolds, the more it points toward that truth. Don't skip this moment. The next piece is subtle, yet it changes everything. There are times when people believe they are waiting for another person, when in reality they are waiting for clarity. Waiting for understanding. waiting for the moment when scattered emotions finally make sense. That moment may be closer than it appears. Not because every question is about to be answered, but because the right question is beginning to emerge. And the right question is more powerful than 100 rushed answers. The question is this: what if the truth about your soulmate is not hidden in who they are, but in what they help you recognize about yourself? Pause there. Because that possibility carries extraordinary depth. The strongest connections often reflect something back to us. They reveal strengths we forgot, dreams we neglected, qualities we underestimated. They remind us of parts of ourselves that deserve attention. And suddenly, the story becomes larger than romance alone. It becomes a story about growth, recognition, understanding, meaning. That is why everything feels different now. That is why the atmosphere around this journey feels quieter, deeper, more personal. Because the final layers are approaching. Very soon, a realization will emerge that connects every clue, every delay, and every feeling that has guided this journey forward. And when that realization arrives, you may discover that the truth you were waiting for was not simply approaching from the outside. It was awakening within you at the same time. And that changes the next chapter completely. A quiet realization is beginning to rise now, and it does not arrive with noise or spectacle. It arrives the way sunlight slowly fills a room, so gently that you barely notice it at first, until suddenly everything looks different. That is the feeling surrounding this moment. The story has been guiding you here from the very beginning, not toward a dramatic ending, but toward an understanding that carries far more meaning than a simple answer ever could. For a long time, you may have believed that the truth about your soulmate was something waiting somewhere ahead of you. A future discovery. A future meeting. A future revelation. Yet as the layers continue unfolding, another possibility begins to emerge. What if the truth has been revealing itself piece by piece through every season you have already lived? What if every experience has been preparing your eyes to recognize something that was always becoming clearer? There is a reason certain memories continue returning to you. Not because they are unfinished, but because they contain lessons that still matter. Think about the moments when you felt misunderstood. Think about the times when you gave more than you received. Think about the seasons when patience felt difficult. Those experiences shaped your understanding of what genuine connection should feel like. They taught you the difference between attention and appreciation. Between temporary excitement and lasting value. Between being noticed and being truly understood. And that distinction is becoming incredibly important now. Because the truth approaching the surface is not centered on perfection. It is centered on alignment. Alignment of values. Alignment of intentions. Alignment of understanding. When those things begin to exist together, something remarkable happens. Conversations carry meaning. Small moments become memorable. Ordinary experiences begin feeling significant. Not because life suddenly becomes extraordinary every second, but because sharing life with someone who understands your heart transforms the ordinary into something beautiful. Stay till the end, because the next realization may explain why this journey feels so personal. Imagine standing before a mirror that reflects not your appearance, but your growth. You would see every lesson you learned. Every challenge you overcame. Every moment that strengthened your character. You would see how much has changed within you, even during periods when it felt as though nothing was changing at all. Now imagine someone else recognizing those qualities. Not because you told them to. Not because you tried to impress them. But because they genuinely see them. That possibility carries a quiet power. And the closer we move toward the heart of this story, the more it becomes clear that recognition is one of its most important themes. Some people are attracted to what is obvious. Others are drawn to what is real. The difference matters. Because what is obvious often fades quickly. What is real tends to remain. That is why meaningful connections frequently surprise people. They do not always arrive wearing the appearance they expected. They do not always follow the timeline they imagined. They do not always fit the picture they once carried in their minds. Yet when they arrive, something feels familiar. Not because you have known the person forever, but because the understanding feels familiar. The comfort feels familiar. The sincerity feels familiar. And suddenly, you stop focusing on whether a connection looks right and begin noticing that it feels right. That realization is standing very close now. Something important is waiting for you within it. As this journey continues, another piece quietly reveals itself. The truth about your soulmate is connected to authenticity. Not the version of yourself you think others want to see. Not the version created to gain approval. Not the version shaped by expectations. The real you. The honest you. The person you remain when no performance is required. That version carries more value than you realize. In fact, it may be the very reason certain paths unfolded exactly as they did. Because authentic connections are built upon authenticity. And authenticity cannot grow in places where people feel pressured to become someone else. Perhaps that is why some chapters ended. Perhaps that is why some opportunities passed by. Perhaps that is why certain doors remained closed despite your efforts. Not because something was wrong, but because something more aligned was still finding its way forward. Don't skip this part. A final piece is beginning to move. Picture a puzzle spread across a table. For a long time, you searched for individual pieces. You focused on what was missing. You wondered when the picture would finally make sense. Then one day, without realizing it, you stop looking at individual pieces and start seeing the image itself. That shift changes everything. Because once you see the image, you understand that every piece had a purpose. Even the pieces that seemed confusing. Even the pieces that appeared unrelated. Even the pieces you almost ignored. And now, the image is becoming clearer. The truth about your soulmate is not hidden inside a single dramatic revelation. It is hidden inside a pattern. A pattern of growth. A pattern of understanding. A pattern of becoming. The more closely you examine that pattern, the more you begin noticing something extraordinary. You were never simply waiting. You were becoming ready. Ready to recognize. Ready to understand. Ready to appreciate something deeper than surface impressions. And perhaps, somewhere beyond what you can currently see, another person has been experiencing a similar journey. Learning. Growing. Changing. Becoming ready. That possibility is no longer distant. It feels closer now. Like footsteps approaching from beyond a bend in the road. Like music becoming louder as it moves nearer. Like the final pages of a story slowly turning toward a chapter that changes everything that came before it. The next part carries the realization that this entire journey has been moving toward, a realization that may finally reveal why the title began with only 5 minutes remaining. And when that final layer unfolds, you may discover that the truth was never rushing toward you from the future. It was quietly finding you in the present all along.